Chapter 393. She took a step forward, pinched King Dongli's chin and stuffed a black pill into his mouth. Dirty. Seeing Luo Qingtong's action, Xianxia's face flashed with anger. He raised his hand and slapped the girl's hand away. Who allowed her to touch another man? Yi Qianming angrily glared at King Dongli, whose eyes were wide open in fear. This kind of scum is worthy of being touched by this woman? Yi Qianxian's heart burst with anger. I've only been touched by this woman a few times. While Yi Qianxian's heart was boiling with anger, King Dongli was already paralyzed on the ground. Luo Qingtong is the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. What kind of good thing can she give me? Thinking of how Luo Qingtong once poisoned an Earth-level alchemist in the Blackfield subsidy, King of Dongli's face was covered with tears and snot. She didn't even lift a finger to poison an Earth-level alchemist. Luo Qingtong. No, evil Dr. Ghost Eye. You are a magnanimous person, please spare me. I didn't know your identity. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and offended you. I beg you to give me a quick death. King Dongli was lying on the ground, crying with tears and snot. He was so scared that he even peed in his pants. He was really scared. One must know that Luo Qingtong is the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. He would never provoke the Luo clan. King Dongli's heart was filled with pain and regret. Grandfather Luo was loyal, patriotic and upright. As long as he didn't deal with the Luo clan, the other party would always be his support. At that time Luo Qingtong, the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, would also be his helper. But now everything was ruined by him. Seeing him crying like this, Luo Qingtong, who was originally stunned by Yi Qianxian's sudden action, reacted and quickly wiped her fingers. So disgusting. Who would have thought that Dongli Wang, who looked vicious, was actually a coward? Seeing him cry like this, Yi Qianxian wondered if there was something dirty on his hands. No wonder Yi Qianxian felt dirty. Even she felt disgusted, okay? Hua Lily misunderstood the meaning of Yi Qianxian's words. Luo Qingtong wiped it several times before she could stop the disgusting feeling in her heart. Let's go. After throwing the handkerchief on the ground, Luo Qingtong carried little Mingzun and prepared to leave. You haven't killed him yet. Yi Qianxian frowned. What was the point of keeping such trash? To cut the weeds one must dig up the roots. Not to mention the other party already knew her true identity. If she didn't get rid of him there would be endless trouble in the future. It's alright. He has already eaten my 3-corpse brainworm pill. After 3 days of brain-devouring pain he will completely become my puppet. Luo Qingtong said lightly. How could she let Dongli King die so easily? He owed the Luo clan too much. What's more, the matter in the Tianyu Empire hadn't been resolved yet. With Dongli Wang on the throne, it would be good for her to numb the Tianyu imperial family. Moreover, if there were any strange movements in the Tianyu Empire, she would be able to know as soon as possible. Last night the Luo clan was almost exterminated. She absolutely couldn't let it happen again. This time she happened to be near Windgaze City and had a spiritual flying ship at hand. What if she wasn't there one day? Wouldn't that be an opportunity for others to take advantage of? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed dangerously. There was only one who could be a thief for 1,000 days, but no one could guard against a thief for 1,000 days. Luo Qingtong would never allow any accidents to happen to the Luo clan. Dongli Wang was very suitable as a spy. Therefore Luo Qingtong mercifully allowed him to live. Chapter 394. Ah! There was a shrill cry in the hall. When Luo Qingtong left, King Dongli still wanted to beg Luo Qingtong for mercy. But as soon as he moved, the 3-corpse brainworm pill took effect. In an instant he held his head and rolled violently in the hall. The shrill cry was enough to give a timid person nightmares. The 3-corpse brainworm pill. After 3 days of brain-eating pain, King Dongli's brain would be swallowed up. The brainworm that broke out of the pill would live in his place and have all his thoughts. No one would be able to tell anything from the outside. No one would be able to find it unless they cut open King Dongli's brain. This was an insidious book that Luo Qingtong got when she visited a diabolism sect in the 24th century in her previous life. In her previous life she used it many times to deal with those who came to kill her. But in the 24th century science was advanced. Those people would fall for it at first, but later on they would find it with a CT scan. Luo Qingtong was too lazy to use it anymore. This time it was suitable for King Dongli. Luo Qingtong left the palace with Xianxia in her arms. Not long after she left, the palace guards who were drugged by her woke up. Hearing King Dongli's scream, they hurried over and were shocked when they saw the scene in the hall. Your Majesty! Could it be that King Qinglu wanted to usurp the throne but was killed by the king instead? Everyone hurriedly helped King Dongli up, but the latter still looked like he was in a lot of pain. Imperial physician. They sounded the alarm and called for the imperial physician. Instantly the entire palace was in chaos. While the palace was in chaos, Luo Qingtong had quietly returned to the Luo family. Phew, finally it's done. King Dongli and Luo Xinning had been dealt with. The Luo family had no more obstacles in Dongli country. As for the other aristocratic families, if they knew what was good for them, they would stay. If not, they would be eliminated. There was no need for Luo Qingtong to do these things herself. She heaved a sigh of relief. Then she recalled how King Dongli had wept with tears and mucus all over his face. Instantly she felt disgusted. He didn't know if there was anything unclean on his body. Luo Qingtong shuddered inexplicably at the thought of Dongli King wanting to hug her thigh and beg for mercy. She hurriedly asked people to prepare hot water for her to take a bath. She wanted to get rid of her bad luck. She put little Nether Venerable on the bed. His arms and legs were small and he was only a little big. As soon as he was placed on the bed, he sank into the soft quilt and struggled for a while before he crawled out. Before he could catch his breath, a red robe flew towards him with a swish, covering him in it. Plop. Xianxia fell into the quilt again. This time he was surrounded by the girl's unique fragrance, which enveloped him completely. It was as if Luo Qingtong was right in front of him, exhaling her sweet and fragrant scent. Luo Qingtong. Xianxia's face was as red as blood. He struggled to get out of Luo Qingtong's robe. At this moment there was a splash. Behind the partition there was a sound of water. Xianren's figure froze in an instant. Luo Qingtong was taking a bath. This thought flashed through his mind. His gaze uncontrollably drifted towards the screen. Chapter 395. The Empire of Qin's Holy Capital, Holy Academy Headquarters. Xianxia coldly looked at the dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy. The dean was nervous. He didn't know why this Supreme of Blackfield had suddenly come to the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy with such an unfriendly expression. This dark Supreme's strength was unfathomable. All the Sage Realm powerhouses of the True Spill continent knew about it. It was rumored that his strength had already surpassed the Sage Realm. As for what realm he had reached, no one knew. Even his own teacher, the Grand Dean, had a cautious expression when talking about him. The Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy naturally didn't dare to neglect him. What's more, in front of Xianxia he didn't have the slightest room to resist. His opponent's aura was too strong. He clearly didn't reveal the slightest bit of aura. But just his aura alone was enough to suppress him to the point where he couldn't speak. Your Excellency Dark Supreme, may I know why Your Excellency Dark Supreme has come to the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy? Teacher, he is not in the Holy Academy. Facing Xianxia's terrifying aura, the Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy found it extremely difficult to finish his words. He emphasized his teacher, hoping that the man would restrain his aura a little for the sake of the other party. Xianxia coldly looked at him. After knowing that the aura of danger that Luo Qingtong had encountered came from the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy, his heart was filled with anger. Therefore he didn't intend to give face to the Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy. His woman couldn't be taught a lesson by others. I have recently obtained a wisp of aura, Xianxia said. He raised his hand and released a wisp of aura that he had imprisoned. It was the aura of the holy pen that he had sensed through the 10-directional dragon ring. This aura has injured my people. How are you going to explain this to me? What? The Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy was stunned. He looked at the wisp of aura released by Xianxia in disbelief. Then his face darkened. Which bastard was it that dared to provoke the Supreme of the Dark Region? He even injured the people around him. How important was that person's identity to be able to make the Blackfield Supreme Master come to the Empire of Qin to inquire about it personally? Thinking of this, he instantly scolded the person who caused the trouble. Don't let him find out who it is. Your Excellency Mingzun, I'm really sorry. This wisp of aura is indeed a treasure of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. It has the aura of a holy pen. The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin looked terrible. There was really no way to push this blame away. The holy pen was the treasure of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. It carried the unique aura of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. This wisp of aura was indeed the aura of the holy brush. However, this aura was very weak. It was clearly released by a spiritual body. Thinking of this, the dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin felt a headache coming on. There were many spiritual bodies of the holy pen. Almost all the mentors of the Saint Academy and the mentors of the other academies would be protected by a spiritual body of the holy pen every time they went out to do something. Now that Xianxia had made it clear that he was going to make a punitive expedition against them, how could he find the owner of this spiritual body of aura for Xianxia? Your Excellency Mingzun, we really didn't know about this. This aura of the Saint Realm was released by a spiritual body of the holy pen. Xianxia's voice interrupted him. I don't want to listen to your explanation. Xianxia's voice was cold. The only thing I know is that this aura injured my people. The Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin must give me an explanation. Chapter 396. Your Excellency Mingzun. The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was anxious. There are so many of them. We really can't confirm their identity. It was the enrollment season. The mentors of the various academies and the headquarters went out to recruit people in different countries. How could they be sure who hurt Mingzun's woman among so many people? The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was cursing the troublemaker in his heart. Just as he was about to plead with Xianxia with sweat all over his forehead, he suddenly felt the man in front of him stop breathing. Then a faint smell of blood suddenly spread out. Your Excellency Mingzun? The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was shocked. Could it be that someone secretly attacked and hurt Mingzun? However, just as he was about to look up, a strong and terrifying aura suddenly burst out from Xianxia and suppressed him in place. Don't look up. Xianxia's voice was cold and harsh. He covered his nose. Hidden under the dark gold mask, his handsome face that didn't seem like a mortal's was instantly dyed with a crimson red. That boiling red color followed the strange burning sensation on his body and instantly spread throughout his entire body. Blood dripped out. The dignified Mingzun had a nosebleed. People would laugh their heads off if they knew about it. Xianxia was ashamed and angry. He just wanted to grab the woman and throw her on the bed to punish her. He was about to explode. The aura emitted from his body was extremely terrifying. Crack, crack, crack. The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was suppressed by his terrifying aura. His bones were cracking. He complained incessantly in his heart. He thought that Mingzun was angry because of the Saint Academy's refusal. He immediately shouted, "Wait! Your Excellency Mingzun, I didn't mean to hide it. The holy pen is not in the Saint Academy now. It was taken by my teacher. When my teacher comes back, I will investigate the whereabouts of the aura as soon as possible and give you an explanation, okay?" The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was really suppressed to tears. This supreme master of the Black Field was really powerful. Could it be that even his teacher was somewhat afraid of him? Could it be that the hidden experts of the four sacred dynasties didn't care about him establishing the Black Domain? Mingzun's strength was really not on the same level as his. He was afraid that even his teacher's level was not as good as his teacher. Thinking of this, he wanted to cry but had no tears. At this moment, his teacher was also not in the sacred court. There was really no one who could save him. He had thought that Xianxia would not give up. Mingzi. After he finished speaking, he vanished from the sight of the headmaster of the Grand Qin Academy. This supreme of the dark region was so powerful, and had suppressed him to the point that he couldn't move at all, so how could he be in such a sorry state? But in fact he was telling the truth. Xianxia covered his nose all the way back to the spiritual boat. The aura around him made all the people in the Black Field bow their heads wherever he went. They couldn't and didn't dare to look up. Back to the Black Field. Xianxia's voice was muffled. He felt like he was gnashing his teeth. Chapter 397. Don't let him find that woman. Otherwise, Yi Qianren gritted his teeth and let out a muffled groan. His aura became unstable again. That kind of fiery and scorching feeling was almost driving him crazy. At the same time, Dongli Nation Wingay City Luo family. Little Mingzun was looking at the beautiful scene reflected on the screen in front of him. The girl's figure was graceful and petite, and her figure was slender and well-proportioned. The places that should be concave were concave and the places that should be convex were convex. She had just started to develop, but it seemed that she had already begun to take shape. Yi Qianren looked at the young girl's fingers holding the handkerchief and carefully wiping from her neck to her feet. Every curve of her body was shown through the high-quality screen in front of him. His brain instantly exploded and he didn't even know when he started to have a nosebleed. Of course, what flowed out was the power of his soul. In an instant, Yi Qianxian's figure faded a lot. When Luo Qingtong came out of the shower, she saw him covering his nose and lying on the bed. His figure shrank again in an instant. He was shocked. What happened to you? Could it be that the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood was out of control and absorbed his soul power? Thinking of this, she quickly used her eye technique to check, but found that there was nothing strange in the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. There was no extra power. What was going on? Luo Qingtong didn't have time to think. She quickly fed Yi Qianxian a yin soul pill and carried him up. What's wrong with you? Why did you lose so much of your soul power? Could Yi Qianxian tell Luo Qingtong that he had a nosebleed because he peeked at her bathing? If it's nothing, don't make a fuss. He struggled with a red face. Let me down. This woman was always kissing and hugging him. It was fine before, but after what happened just now when little Mingzun got close to Luo Qingtong, he couldn't suppress the strange heat in his heart. Especially when Luo Qingtong just finished bathing, the fragrance of a young girl on her body became more pleasant. Yi Qianxian was in her arms. His whole body seemed to be surrounded by this fragrance. He was even more embarrassed and angry. Hey, don't move. Luo Qingtong was originally going to pick him up to check. His movement instantly made Luo Qingtong lose her grip. Yi Qianxian's head was buried in Luo Qingtong's breasts. Touching the smooth and delicate skin, Yi Qianren recalled the scene where Luo Qingtong's hand brushed against it when she was bathing. Instantly she felt like she was going to explode. The nosebleed that had just stopped flowed out again. Oh, I got it. Luo Qingtong lifted him up. Seeing that the soul power in his body was dissipating little by little, she quickly gave him a yin soul pill. Then she looked at him with an evil smile. My lord, just now you peeked at me bathing? Although Luo Qingtong's words were a question, her tone was affirmative. She glanced at the compartment where she was bathing. Only then did she realize that the quality of the screen was very good. After it was soaked in water vapor, it became very transparent. Through the screen she could vaguely see the scene behind the screen. In other words, the scene of her bathing just now was seen by the other party. Chapter 398. Then Lord, do I look good? She leaned close to little Mingzun as she spoke and gently blew into his ear. Humph. Little Mingzun blushed as he raised his head. He forced himself to be calm. What's there to look at? Is that so? Luo Qingtong smiled as she looked at him. The smile on her lips became sweeter. Would you have a nosebleed again? She suddenly pointed at him. Upon hearing that, Yi Qianxian subconsciously covered his nose again. However, when he covered his nose, he realized that he didn't have a nosebleed at all. This woman. He looked at Luo Qingtong angrily. The latter had already collapsed on the bed with laughter. Luo Qingtong laughed happily. Her long hair was fluttering. She had just taken a bath and there was still some water vapor on her hair. Following her movements, they scattered on the bed. Coupled with her face that was more delicate than a flower, it was truly an indescribable beauty. If the smiling Luo Qingtong was like an evil witch in hell who tempted the deities, then the laughing Luo Qingtong was like a fairy who fell into the mortal world. She was so beautiful that she didn't seem to be tainted by the mortal world. These two completely different temperaments were presented to the extreme on Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong. Little Mingzun's face became redder. That's enough. Don't. You're spoiled, right? Luo Qingtong continued his words. She hugged the pillow and laughed even more happily. She didn't know that Yi Qianxian was so cute after he turned small. The cold and evil actions that the main body usually did had all turned into cuteness at this moment. Even this duplicitous and angry look was so adorable that it was going to explode. She really wanted to tease him every minute. Then what about you peeking at me bathing? Humph. That's because I accidentally saw it. I wasn't peeping. Xianxia tried his best to clear his name. He was a dignified underworld paragon, so how could he possibly peek at her bathing? Humph. It was clearly because the quality of the screen was too good. That's because I saw it. Luo Qingtong hugged the pillow and tilted her head to look at him. Her delicate face was full of smiles. I'm a pure and innocent young girl, but my lord has seen everything. How am I going to live in the future? As she spoke, she let out a sigh and approached Yi Qianmin in a devilish and seductive manner. She held back her laughter and gently breathed into his ear, saying, "How about this, High Lord? How about giving yourself to him?" Before she could finish her sentence, Yi Qianxian's expression froze and he looked out the door. At the same time, Luo Qingtong seemed to have sensed something. She sat up from the bed and looked out the door. "Master." A figure suddenly and silently appeared outside Luo Qingtong's room. Something happened to Luo Xining. The war slave reported. Is that so? Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. Luo Xining. Previously, Luo Qingtong had beaten her into a half-cripple in the arena during the recruitment assessment. Then she threw her to the bandits that she had arranged to follow Luo Xining's plan. However, Luo Qingtong had secretly sent the expert who had just reached the martial royal realm and the experts of the martial king realm from the evil valley to secretly watch them. The bottle of extremely poisonous poison that Luo Xining had taken out was definitely not something that an ordinary person could take out. Even the people of the Tianyu Empire could not do it. Then the bottle of poison must have come from somewhere else. Luo Qingtong did not believe that the other party would ignore the fact that Luo Xining was in trouble and her eyes were healed. Chapter 399. Ah. In the dilapidated kiln, a woman's cry of pain could be heard. That voice was abnormally miserable, as if he was being skinned alive and his bones were being torn apart. It made one's heart go numb. Luo Qingtong's expression was calm. She carried Yi Qianxian and waited outside. Beside her was the bandit leader who was trying to please her. "Miss, don't worry. Everything is done according to your instructions. What Luo Xining is enjoying now is all arranged by herself." He rubbed his hands and said, "Those customers are all people with special hobbies that I found from all over the world. I guarantee that Luo Xining will suffer every time." Luo Qingtong looked at him and did not say anything. Luo Xining would definitely suffer. What the bandit did was just icing on the cake. The elixir that she gave Luo Xining made her feel like she was being skinned alive every time someone touched her, not to mention being ravaged by customers with special hobbies. However, this was all arranged by Luo Xining herself. Luo Qingtong could only watch her enjoy it. After an unknown amount of time, the screams stopped and a wretched-looking man walked out with a satisfied look on his face. "Sigh, this woman's voice is really interesting. Boss, I want her again next time." The wretched man said to the bandit leader. "Alright, get out of here. We'll talk about it next time." The bandit leader was afraid that the man would offend Luo Qingtong and quickly chased him away. In fact, even if he did not chase him away, the wretched man would not dare to look at Luo Qingtong. The aura around the bandit was too scary. Not to mention other things, just the powerful people around Luo Qingtong made the wretched man not dare to look at Luo Qingtong even if he was given 100 guts. "Bring Luo Xining out." Luo Qingtong sat in the courtyard, surrounded by the people from Evil Valley. Hearing this, the group of people entered the room and dragged Luo Xining out. Bang! Luo Xining was thrown to the ground. At this moment she was in an extremely sorry state. Her entire body was bruised from head to toe, and there wasn't a single piece of unharmed flesh. In some places, traces of blood and lacerations could be seen. Her face had been scratched until it was garish and there was blood everywhere. At that moment, those wounds and bruises were slowly healing. Her skin returned to its original appearance. However, every time it healed, it was like peeling off a layer of skin from Luo Xining. "Ah, Luo Qingtong, you killed me. Just kill me." She writhed on the ground like a lump of rotten meat. Although her face quickly regained its previous beauty, the process was extremely tragic and it was a fate worse than death. Luo Xining was really scared. Luo Qingtong's means were 1,000 times more ruthless than hers. Her methods were like child's play in front of Luo Qingtong. But how could this be? How did it become like this? She was supposed to be the winner. She was supposed to be the one standing here looking down at Luo Qingtong and showing off her glory. How did it become Luo Qingtong? She couldn't believe all of this. Ever since she woke up and was tortured, she couldn't accept it. It was that spiritual array caster. It must be that spiritual array caster who helped the Luo family and Luo Qingtong. If not, how could she lose? She had arranged everything and destroyed everything that Luo Qingtong could rely on. How could she lose? It was all because Luo Qingtong was too lucky. Chapter 400. Kill you. Luo Xingning, don't be so naive. Luo Qingtong leaned on the big wooden chair with one hand supporting her forehead and the other holding little Mingzun in her arms. She looked at Luo Xingning indifferently. You poisoned Grandpa, colluded with the Dongli royal family to attack the Luo family, and destroyed my array when Fiji led the Mang Tiger Guards to attack us. I don't want to die even if you want to. Moreover, don't try to provoke me by injuring yourself to gain my confidence. Aren't you trying to provoke me not to kill you by saying all these? What I said just now is what you want, isn't it? Why are you waiting for someone to save you? Unfortunately, you don't have any chance. Luo Qingtong smiled faintly. She saw the change of emotions in Luo Xinning's eyes, from suspicion to shock and then to disbelief. She smiled and clapped her hands. Bring her here. Impossible. Luo Xinning looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. Luo Qingtong's words kept echoing in her mind. The array of the Luo family was set up by Luo Qingtong? Was she the spirit array master that he thought was protecting the Luo family? How is this possible? Luo Xinning's voice was sharp. She couldn't help but scream. How could Luo Qingtong be the spiritual array master? And how did she know about Fiji? Fiji and the others would never expose their identities. That meant that Luo Qingtong killed them? She didn't appear at the entrance examination because of luck or accident, but because Fiji and the others were all dead. Luo Xinning's face turned pale as she thought of this. This kind of deathly pale was like the ashes of death. All her pride and unwillingness were completely crushed by Luo Qingtong's words. Luo Qingtong was the spiritual array master, and this hit her even harder than when she was beaten up by her in the entrance examination. Previously, she could still be jealous of Luo Qingtong. She could still be resentful and unreconciled. But now Luo Qingtong, other than crawling on the ground like a stray dog, what else could she do? The spiritual array master who was secretly protecting the Luo family was actually Luo Qingtong. Luo Xinning lay on the ground, laughing and crying. She had no hope left. She would not forget that it was the formation set up by Luo Qingtong that almost killed the two peak martial marquee experts beside her. It was also Luo Qingtong's array formation that stopped Fiji and the others. So all along she had been the biggest joke. She treated Luo Qingtong as a joke, but the other party didn't put her in her eyes at all. She was extremely afraid of that spiritual array master, but she didn't expect that the other party was Luo Qingtong. However, Luo Xinning still didn't know that Luo Qingtong was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Otherwise, she would be even more hopeless. Just as Luo Xinning was feeling hopeless, a person was brought up and pushed to her side. A peak martial royal realm expert. Luo Qingtong looked at the martial royal realm expert whose limbs were tied up and who had lost all ability to resist. She smiled coldly. Luo Xinning, you really have a lot of face. Peak martial king? Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Luo Xinning looked blankly at the person beside her and realized that she didn't know him. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and her eyes widened. Chapter 401. He is the one who came to save you. If I hadn't made the proper arrangements, you would have been saved by him. Luo Qingtong chuckled as she said this. The person who can take out the most poisonous liquid is indeed not an ordinary person. Even the person who was sent to save you is an expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. Luo Qingtong looked at the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm as she said this. To be honest, she was also very surprised when she received the report. The other party was an expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. If she hadn't made the arrangements and taken the initiative, the other party would have succeeded and saved Luo Xinning. To think that such a powerful cultivator would be sent to save Luo Xinning. Luo Qingtong didn't believe that they were being cautious. That meant, The other party's strength was actually very ordinary on their side. It seemed that she had caught a big fish by accident. After Luo Qingtong knew that the poison in her eyes was the most poisonous liquid, she guessed that things were not simple. But she didn't expect that things were much more interesting than she thought. "Tell me, who is your master?" Luo Qingtong didn't look at Luo Xinning anymore. The latter was just a bait. She deliberately spared Luo Xinning's life so that she would tell the background of the person behind the scenes in extreme despair and fear. But unfortunately Luo Xinning didn't know. Otherwise, after so many days of torture, if she had such a powerful backer, she would have told the truth. Fortunately, she was still of some use. "Didn't she catch a fish?" Luo Qingtong asked someone to remove the ball of cloth stuffed in the mouth of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. "Bah! You don't deserve to know the name of my master." The expert at the peak of the martial royal realm spat as the ball of cloth in his mouth was removed. "Miss Luo, I didn't expect your Luo family to be so capable." As he spoke, he glanced at the group of Evil Valley cultivators beside Luo Qingtong and said disdainfully, "But that's all. I advise you to let Luo Xinning and me go if you know what's good for you. Then send us out of here nicely. Otherwise..." When he said this, he sneered and looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain. The destruction of the Luo clan is imminent. With master status, if it wasn't for the fact that he disdained to deal with the Luo family, he would have annihilated a small and weak marquis residence from an inferior country with a single breath. Not to mention his own master. If he wanted to make a move on the Luo family, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes? Thus, this peak martial monarch did not place Luo Qingtong in his eyes at all. So what if he was a prisoner? Could it be that Luo Qingtong really dared to do something to him? Thinking of this, the expression of the peak martial emperor became even more contemptuous. He wanted Luo Qingtong to send him away the same way she caught him. However, just as he was thinking this, he heard Luo Qingtong's light laughter. Her voice was as clear as a silver bell. But for some unknown reason, when it entered the ears of others, it was like a demonic bell that urged them to take their lives, and it carried a feeling that caused them to shudder with fear. "It seems that I'm too easy to talk to," Luo Qingtong's voice slowly sounded after the laughter. "So, anyone can threaten me with the destruction of the Luo clan." As she spoke, Luo Qingtong's face suddenly darkened. In the next second, she suddenly leaped up and appeared in front of the martial emperor at the peak of the martial emperor realm in an instant. Chapter 402. She broke the legs of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm with a kick. In the latter's incredulous gaze, she lifted her leg and smashed it down. Boom! The man at the peak of the martial royal realm was heavily hit in the shoulder by Luo Qingtong. With both legs broken, he was forced to kneel down by this huge force. "Ah!" He screamed miserably, no longer as arrogant as before. With both legs broken, if Luo Qingtong had not smashed him, he would have naturally collapsed to the ground. However, Luo Qingtong's heavy smashing caused his body to be pressed down by a huge force, and he knelt down directly. The broken bones in his legs were forcefully protruding out. The sharp bone fragments pierced into the tender flesh of his wounds. In an instant, the man at the peak of the martial royal realm was in so much pain that he almost fainted. "Luo Qingtong, how dare you? Why wouldn't I dare?" Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. "If your master had been paying attention to the Luo family, he would have taken action long ago after you were caught. Since he didn't, it means that you were sent here alone. Not to mention that I broke your legs. Even if I killed you, no one would know that it was done by the Luo family. Who would believe that the Luo family could kill a man at the peak of the martial royal realm? You." The man at the peak of the martial royal realm was shocked and angry. Half of what he said just now was indeed to trick Luo Qingtong into letting him go. He didn't expect that she could see through it so easily. And she also guessed that he had no helpers here. "Go to the Colosseum and catch some fighting beasts." Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. She flicked a pill into the mouth of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm. After the incident with King Dongli, she was traumatized by the idea of touching these people. Now she would try her best not to touch them if she could. "Luo Qingtong, what did you give me?" After Luo Qingtong's pill entered his mouth, the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm instantly felt the aura in his body change. An indescribable smell was emitted. When he saw the ferocious beasts with green and red eyes staring at him and panting heavily, He suddenly realized that the aura he was exuding was the aura of the mother beast when it was in its infancy. And these fighting beasts that Luo Qingtong found were all male beasts. Luo Qingtong, what are you doing? Even though the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm had been trained to have a strong will, when he saw the ferocious beasts closing in on him, he was terrified to the extreme. These male beasts were all extremely ferocious beasts. Once they pounced, the peak martial royal realm expert shuddered at the thought of that terrifying scene. His legs were broken by Luo Qingtong. He fell to the ground and couldn't move. He couldn't even escape. Tell me the name of your master. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. Otherwise, you can wait to enjoy the service of these ferocious beasts. As she spoke, she raised her hand, and the experts of the Evil Valley loosened the reins in their hands. In an instant, those ferocious beasts couldn't wait to rush forward, roaring wildly. No. Seeing those ferocious beasts pouncing on him, some of them even pushed him to the ground and pressed on him. The expert at the peak of the martial royal realm completely collapsed. He hurriedly shouted, I'll tell you, my masters. Chapter 403. Oh, not bad, you actually managed to get my name. But, the words that were about to come out of his mouth suddenly changed into another voice. The body of the peak martial royal realm suddenly twitched violently. As if he had touched a forbidden switch, he suddenly opened his mouth and howled. That voice was as mournful as a ghost's howl in the dark night. In the next second his body quickly shriveled and shrunk. In an instant there was only a skeleton left. Get out of the way. Seeing the change of the peak martial royal realm, Luo Qingtong's pupils suddenly shrank. She immediately ordered the experts of the Evil Valley who were leading the fighting beasts to get out of the way. Boom. As soon as she finished speaking, the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm suddenly jumped up. The violent fighting beast that was half the height of a person on top of him was instantly torn into pieces by him. Countless black auras were emitted from his body. In an instant, those fighting beasts that were close to him roared miserably. They were corroded by the black aura emitted by the peak martial royal realm expert. In an instant they turned into ghastly white bones. The black aura was still spreading and expanding. Wherever it passed it corroded everything. Those experts of the Evil Valley who were leading the fighting beasts couldn't escape in time. Although they had already retreated quickly when Luo Qingtong spoke, they were still one step too late. Several people who were closer to him were infected by the black aura that spread from the peak martial royal realm expert. The pain was bone-rotting and heart-eroding. The black aura corroded the skin as soon as it touched it. In an instant, ghastly white bones appeared. Poison. It was an extremely strong and overbearing poison. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes was piercingly cold. In an instant she dashed out. Don't move. The poisoned experts of the Evil Valley were in so much pain that they wanted to roll on the ground. But when they heard Luo Qingtong's words, they instantly endured the pain and stood still. Some people, half of their bodies were almost corroded, but they were still holding on. Because they knew that if there was really one person who could save them, it was only Luo Qingtong. She had to believe in her master. Looking at the corpses of the fighting beasts on the ground, they felt a chill in their heart. Bang! Luo Qingtong's figure flashed in front of the peak martial royal realm expert in an instant. He didn't even look at the black aura surrounding his body. With a bang he punched out. Master. Seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, the Evil Valley's people who had retreated to a safe area in time cried out anxiously. Xianxia, on the other hand, was shoved into Luo Qingtong's arms the moment she made her move. Looking at the girl's fierce and austere actions, his round little face didn't have much of a change in expression. This woman will be fine. Someone as cunning as her wouldn't make a move if she wasn't certain. The other party was thinking too much if he wanted to take advantage of her. However, the other party's ability to control his mind remotely and detonate the poison in the body of the expert at the peak of the martial emperor realm, Xianxia narrowed his eyes. Bang! Luo Qingtong's fist directly broke through the layer of black aura surrounding the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm and accurately hit his head. In an instant the head of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm exploded. Chapter 404. It was a pure black bead which exuded a strong aura of life force. Needless to say, the power of flesh and blood of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm was now in this pure black bead, which was also the source of the black aura around the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. Bang! Luo Qingtong grabbed the bead and crushed it into powder. The next second, she waved her hand and scattered the powder to the experts of the evil valley who had been eroded. Those people still listened to Luo Qingtong's words and stood still. Some of them had been completely corroded into bones and were motionless. They believed in Luo Qingtong. Swish! As Luo Qingtong waved her hand, the poison in the experts of the evil valley was instantly detoxified. Not only that, their bodies, which had been eroded before, also recovered quickly after being replenished by the power of flesh and blood. The power of flesh and blood of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm was amazing. All of it had been condensed into a black bead, which was emitting poisonous fog without restraint. If Luo Qingtong hadn't seen through the trick and grabbed the bead, the area within dozens of miles around the body of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm would have been filled with poisonous fog, and not a blade of grass would have been left alive. It would have been a land of death. The person behind the scenes had such a vicious heart and ruthless methods. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. When the bead was caught, he followed the trace of connection he saw with his eye technique. With a swoosh, he gathered the poisonous fog around the corpse of the peak martial royal realm expert that had not completely dissipated in his hand. Her 5 fingers moved slightly and changed the arrangement of the poison in an instant. Then she raised her hand and threw it out. Hiss! In a place far away from the eastern fence country, a beautiful woman in luxurious clothes, who looked very noble and graceful, suddenly took a step back. A circle of black was suddenly printed on her snow-white and tender fingers. And this trace of black was still expanding. Your Highness! Seeing the noble and graceful girl's action, the maidservants around were instantly shocked and hurriedly rushed up. Your Highness, how are you? What was going on? Who attacked you? The group of maidservants had sharp eyes. Almost in an instant, they surrounded the luxuriously dressed young girl and quickly became alert. These people were all martial emperors. They were powerful enough to establish an empire, but here they were just a group of ordinary maidservants. Don't worry, no one attacked me. Feng Luan waved his hand and dismissed them. Indeed, no one had ambushed her. It was just that when she was on her way out of the palace, she suddenly felt that someone had violated the prohibition she had set. Someone wanted to reveal her identity, so she diverted a bit of her attention to deal with it. Unexpectedly, he was injured by someone else instead. Looking at the greenish-black color that was spreading from her jade-white fingers, her expression turned slightly cold. The other party's poison techniques were very profound. He was actually able to counter the poison by following the connection in his mind. Not only that, he even modified the poison. Feng Luan tried several times, but he still couldn't get rid of the trace of poison on his finger. Suddenly, his brows furrowed. Let's go back to the palace first. Also, send someone to check if there are any missing or dead people outside. Send me a list of names for me to check. She wanted to find out who was spying on her identity behind her back. Chapter 405. At the same time, Luo Xining was lying in a corner of the dilapidated house in Dongli country. She could not believe what she had seen. When those fighting beasts were brought up, she had already been dragged to the side. That unforeseen event just now, she didn't suffer any injuries. Instead, she saw everything that happened. Luo Xining was the happiest person when the poison in the peak martial royal realm exploded. Since she was already living a life worse than death, it would be great if she could drag Luo Qingtong down with her. But what did she see? Luo Xining saw how Luo Qingtong had solved the disaster so easily. The poison that could corrode a martial king or martial royal realm expert into bones seemed to be useless in front of Luo Qingtong. She had solved it in an instant. Luo Xining saw that the flesh and blood of the martial king realm experts from the evil valley had grown back. Their strength had increased. Luo Xining felt as if all her strength had been sucked out of her. She collapsed on the ground. There was no hope. She finally knew why she had lost to Luo Qingtong. It turned out that Luo Qingtong had not shown any strength in front of her. She thought that she was strong, but she was nothing in front of Luo Qingtong. Even the person she had been relying on, the person who had poisoned Luo Qingtong, could not do anything to her. Luo Xining's heart was filled with despair. She collapsed on the ground like a dead dog. She had lost all hope and vitality. No one could save her anymore. No one could save her from Luo Qingtong. Luo Xining realized this clearly. She rolled her eyes and fainted in despair. Send someone to drag her in. Luo Qingtong's voice was calm. She did not look at Luo Xining anymore. The person behind the scenes had been exposed. Luo Xining was no longer of any use. Luo Qingtong did not want to dirty her hands for such a person. Let her enjoy herself here. She would kneel, cry and be in despair. She had to finish what she had done. Yes. Young miss, don't worry. I will definitely watch over her and let her suffer the torture that she arranged herself. The bandit leader still had some lingering fear in his heart. That terrifying poisonous fog just now was really too terrifying. He could vaguely feel the strength of the people around Luo Qingtong. Seeing that they had almost been corroded into white bones, and that he had almost died along with them, he felt an indescribable fear in his heart. He was also in awe of Luo Qingtong. If it wasn't for this young Miss Luo, all of them might have died here. Moreover, it was an extremely miserable one. Thinking of this, he nodded and bowed to Luo Qingtong, promising that Luo Xining would enjoy the best service. Yes. Luo Qingtong answered casually and walked to the corpse of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm who had shrunk into a skeleton. The person behind the scenes was very cautious. She had placed a gag order on her subordinates. Once her name was mentioned, she would be able to sense it. She would then control her mind and detonate the trap in the body. It was a pity that she did not manage to kill them all. Luo Qingtong kept all the things on the body of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm. She planned to find a time to go to the Black Field and find out who the person was. Let's go. She got up and was about to leave. Chapter 406. Why are you leaving? Xianxia popped his head out of her arms. Little Mingzun was only as big as a dot. He jumped in front of Luo Qingtong and held her hand that was retracting into her sleeve. Wipe the blood off your hand and apply medicine. He was furious. This woman didn't know how to cherish herself. Didn't she know how to apply medicine when her hand was injured? She even said that she wanted to go back as if nothing had happened. Even if she wanted to go back, she had to apply medicine before going back. Ah. Luo Qingtong looked at her right hand following his movement. She saw a few wounds that were neither deep nor shallow and blood was oozing out. She was injured when she broke through the black fog around the man at the peak of the martial royal realm. The poison of the black fog didn't have much effect on her. Luo Qingtong had the pupil technique, so she easily broke through the weakest part of the black fog. However, the man was at the peak of the martial royal realm. Especially when the power of his flesh and blood exploded into the black fog, it had a lot of fierce aura. Luo Qingtong was a little injured when she broke his head and took out the bead. However, Luo Qingtong didn't care about such a small injury, but Xianxia noticed it. It's okay. It's just a small injury. Luo Qingtong shook her hand and was about to get up. She looked up and saw Xianxia's angry face. Her cheeks puffed up and she squatted down again. Hey. She touched her forehead. I'll apply medicine. Don't be angry. This man probably thought that her hand was dirty because of the bleeding. How could a man be so obsessed with cleanliness? However, looking at Yi Qianren's condition, if she didn't wipe off the blood stains on her hands and apply some medicine, he would definitely not let her hug him. With his thin arms and legs, how long would it take for him to go back to the Luo family? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. She took out a bottle of medicine and poured some on her wounds. It washed the blood off the back of her hand and healed the wounds. Is it done? She showed her white and tender palm to Xianxia. Come here. She smiled and stretched out her hand to Xianxia. Let's go home. Humph. Xianxia snorted, but there was a ripple in his heart. Go home. This sentence suddenly touched a part of his heart. He looked up at Luo Qingtong's beautiful face that was so close to his. For some reason his heart softened. This woman had always been able to easily provoke his anger and eliminate it easily. I can't get hurt casually. Speaking of this, he felt a little awkward and then added, it's so dirty. As he spoke, he frowned and walked toward Luo Qingtong's hand with his short legs. He didn't know how cute and arrogant he looked. That expression of, I don't want to talk to you so soon, but since you're trying to please me, I'll forgive you reluctantly. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh. That's not something I can control. Seeing that he was staring at her, Luo Qingtong held back her laughter and said, Okay, I'll try to be more careful in the future. As she spoke, she picked up little Mingzun and kissed him on his little face. Then she brought him back to the Luo family with a smile. As soon as they entered the door, a Luo family guard hurriedly ran out. Chapter 407. The Old Master is Awake. The Iron Guard's words made Luo Qingtong very happy. Grandpa. Luo Qingtong carried Xianxia and was about to rush to the Old Master's courtyard. However, she quickly reacted. Little Mingzun must not be discovered by the Old Master. Otherwise, how would she explain to the Old Master? Her changes could be attributed to the inheritance of the Immortal Sect's ruins. Could it be that she had to tell Grandfather Luo that she had accidentally imprisoned the soul fragment of the Supreme of Dark Region? It would be strange if the Old Master didn't have a heart attack. However, if she didn't bring Xianxia with her, what if he ran away when she wasn't paying attention? Luo Qingtong wouldn't let her guard down just because Xianxia was obedient, cute and proud. If he seized the opportunity and ran away, she would be in trouble when his real body chased after her. Thinking about how she had forced that man left and right, Luo Qingtong felt a toothache. Just as she was in a dilemma, Little Pig, who had fainted due to overexertion, woke up in her sleeve. Haha, Master, am I very powerful? Little Pig jumped out of her sleeve. Before he could show off, he saw the little Xianxia in Luo Qingtong's arms, and his mouth instantly opened wide. Snap. Because he was too shocked, his little hoof didn't hook onto Luo Qingtong's clothes and fell to the ground. He. Little Pig was so shocked that he didn't know how to speak. His 4 hooves kept moving on the ground. In the next second, it let out a howl and hopped around on the ground in circles. Why is he here? His pink and tender little hoof pointed straight at Xianxia. Oh my god. Why is this terrifying man here? And why is he so intimate with this woman? Oh my god. What happened while he was unconscious? Why did it see such a horrifying thing the moment it woke up? Luo Qingtong was speechless at Little Pig's series of crazy reactions. This fellow was becoming more and more unreliable. Was it that exaggerated? On the other hand, Xianxia stared coldly at Little Pig, who was pointing its hoof at him. Do you have a problem with me being here? His voice was icy cold. Thinking of this pig jumping directly into Luo Qingtong's arms, if it weren't for her, she was afraid that it would have been lying in Luo Qingtong's arms. She suddenly felt a burst of anger. I don't dare. Little Pig was terrified by his stare. However, it quickly reacted. Ai, that's not right. Why was this man so small? It looked at Xianxia, who was about the same size as it, in Luo Qingtong's arms and widened its eyes. This appearance, don't look at him. This is just a wisp of his soul, Luo Qingtong said and put little Mingzun on the bed. It's good that you woke up. Help me look after him. I'm going to see Grandpa. I'll be back soon. While speaking, she suddenly remembered something and said to Little Pig, Oh right, don't bully him. If this pig knew that this man was just a wisp of his soul and didn't have any attack power, who knows what it would do to him? Little Pig looked at her with a speechless expression. With this man who was the one bullying who? A wisp of soul was connected to the main body. If it bullied this man, did it want to die? Chapter 408. A piercingly cold gaze suddenly landed on Little Pig. Little Pig felt goosebumps all over his body. It turned its head to take a look and saw Xianxia crawling out from the soft blanket. His soft and adorable appearance was extremely adorable. However, Little Pig, who was facing Xianxia's deep and cold eyes, didn't feel anything at all. Oh my god, this man's gaze is so scary. What did I do wrong? Why is he staring at me like this? You're not allowed to speak. Xianxia's cold voice rang in Little Pig's ears after Luo Qingtong left. Little Pig felt his hair stand on end after being stared at by Xianxia. Although he still didn't understand the situation, he quickly nodded his head. Seeing this, Xianxia coldly snorted and looked away. Little Pig breathed a sigh of relief when the pressure was relieved. With a swoosh, it ran to the other side of the bed and finally settled down. Oh my god. That scared me to death. Little Pig patted his chest with his hoof. Why is this man so crazy? What do you mean I'm not allowed to speak? I just want to tell that woman that I can't bully him. What's wrong with that? Wait a minute. Little Pig suddenly thought of something and looked at Xianxia with his mouth wide open. His jaw almost fell to the ground. That woman, don't tell me she doesn't know that there's a connection between the soul fragment and the main body. Is this what this man doesn't want me to say? The corners of Little Pig's eyes twitched violently when he recalled the scene when Lu Qingtong hugged Xianxia when he rushed out. Oh my god. So scary. Forget it, this man won't do anything to harm her anyway. I'll just pretend I don't know. With this thought in mind, Little Pig instantly felt at ease. That's right, I'm not betraying my master. I'm helping my master, okay? Otherwise, with that woman's cruel, cunning and lawless personality, who else could suppress her other than this man? Who else could be worthy of her and not be overshadowed by her radiance? It could only be this man. But before that, it still had something to ask. Hey, do you really like that woman? I said my master. It looked curiously at Yi Qianming, who had become small and delicate. The dignified underworld supremacy had turned into a kawaii pillow doll, yet this man could still remain calm. It seemed that he was somewhat sincere towards that woman. Otherwise, with his identity, he would probably rather detonate this strand of soul than allow himself to become like this. That's between this sovereign and that woman. It has nothing to do with you. Yi Qianxian looked at it coldly. Just watch your mouth. Yi Qianxian had his own pride. He liked that woman and was willing to throw away his face for her. He was also willing to disregard his identity as an underworld venerable for her. However, there was no need for others to know about this. Especially with that woman's character, she was already lawless enough. If he let her know that he liked her so much that he couldn't extricate himself and chased after her again and again, wouldn't she go to heaven? Yi Qianxian coldly snorted in his heart when he recalled how Luo Qingtong had forcefully suppressed him and teased him. F*** serves you right for not being able to get your wife. Little Pig was almost angered to death by Yi Qianxian's words. It originally wanted to tell Yi Qianxian that Luo Qingtong thought he had captured her to deal with her. But since this man didn't appreciate it, then forget it. I'll just wait patiently. Let's see when that woman will understand my intentions. Chapter 409. At the same time, Luo Qingtong stepped into Grandfather Luo's room. Grandfather. Luo Qingtong was delighted to see the hale and hearty old man lying on the bed. After so many days of sleep and recuperation, Grandfather Luo was in much better condition than before, be it in terms of mental or physical strength. His hair, which had suddenly turned white due to the dissipation of his cultivation, was slowly turning black under Luo Qingtong's meticulous care. All the medicines that Luo Qingtong gave Old Master Luo were of the highest quality. They were all taken from the Tianyu Imperial Treasury. How could Grandfather Luo not be in good spirits? Qingtong. Grandfather Luo stood up happily when he heard Luo Qingtong's voice and saw his granddaughter standing outside. Before he could move, Luo Qingtong had already hurried to his side and supported him. Grandfather, you just woke up. Don't move around. Waking up from his coma meant that Grandpa Luo's body was in its best condition. Even so, he still had to be careful when it came to his physical strength and constitution. He'd be fine in a day or two. By then, Grandfather Luo would be able to train himself and return to his original strength. However, Luo Qingtong had a plan in mind. Old Master Luo had dispersed his cultivation and started cultivating again. She definitely wouldn't let him practice the same cultivation technique as before. If it was too low level, it would hinder Grandfather Luo's future development. Luo Qingtong had cultivated Yi Qianren's cultivation method and martial technique before, so she naturally knew how powerful a good cultivation method and martial technique was. However, the other party said that only he could cultivate Yi Qianren's cultivation method. Luo Qingtong didn't know the reason. She thought that Yi Qianxian meant that his cultivation method couldn't be taught to outsiders. It was one thing for her to cultivate it, but it wouldn't be appropriate for her to teach it to Grandfather Luo. Fortunately, there were cultivation methods in the Tianyu Imperial Treasury. Luo Qingtong picked a cultivation method that, as long as one was talented enough, could cultivate all the way to the martial emperor level. She gave it to Grandfather Luo for him to cultivate. Grandfather Luo also found out about the recent changes. He was indescribably shocked. He had not expected that so many things had happened during the period of time when he was unconscious and dispersing his cultivation. Fortunately, Qing Tong had propped up the Luo clan. Fortunately, Qing Tong had obtained the inheritance of the Immortal Sect's ruins and became extraordinary. Otherwise, wouldn't the Luo clan have already been destroyed? Grandfather Luo felt a wave of lingering fear at this thought. As for the Luo family's second branch, this group of ingrates, he hated them to the bone. Whenever he thought about the Luo clan's destruction, he wanted to wring their heads off. If the foundation left by his ancestors was destroyed in his hands, how could he face the ancestors of the Luo clan in the future? Unfilial son. You bastard. Grandpa Luo was so angry that he slammed his fist on the table beside his bed, causing a loud noise to ring out. If not for the fact that he didn't have any strength left, the entire table would have been smashed to pieces. Grandfather, don't be angry. They've learned their lesson. Luo Qingtong smiled. But the Tianyu imperial family. Grandfather Luo's heart was filled with hatred. Finally he sighed. Qingtong, I'm useless. He couldn't protect his granddaughter. She had to run around for the clan at such a young age. Grandfather Luo's heart ached. Chapter 4:10. How is that possible? Grandfather Luo shook his head. Tianyu's royal family treated you so badly. Even if you didn't want to cancel the engagement, I would have done it myself. He couldn't let his beloved granddaughter suffer such grievances. That's right, grandfather. Grandpa, I'll handle this. Don't worry, I'll protect the Luo family. I won't let anyone bully the Luo clan. Luo Qingtong looked at grandfather Luo and said word by word. Her evil eye's promise was as good as gold. If grandfather Luo protected her, she would naturally protect him and the Luo clan. Not to mention Tianyu's royal family was after her. Thinking of how Tianyu's royal family wouldn't cancel the engagement and didn't care about losing face, Luo Qingtong frowned. This was most likely Yu Wenma's fault. Otherwise, with Yu Wenxue and Tianyu's attitude towards her, this engagement would have been cancelled long ago. What was Yu Wenma thinking? Why was he so insistent on cancelling the engagement? And why did he insist on marrying her? It would have been fine if his love for the previous host was as deep as the sea. But according to Luo Qingtong's memories, Yu Wenma had never even looked at the previous host. Not only that, after being engaged for more than a decade, he hadn't even visited the previous host more than once. Every time he saw the previous host, his expression would be cold. Although his etiquette was very thorough, the arrogance and impatience in his eyes could be seen. The other party didn't like the original owner of the body, and was even against this engagement. But why didn't he want to cancel the engagement? Could it be that the previous host's mother was involved in something when she treated him? Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she thought about it. No matter what Yu Wenmo was planning, if he wanted to marry her, it would depend on whether she was willing or not. Using power to oppress others? She would definitely return all of this to Tianyu's royal family. Along with what Yu Wenxue did. She would definitely call off this marriage. Not only would she cancel it, she would do it with a bang. Did Yu Wenma think he could force her? What a joke. Luo Qingtong sneered. After leaving grandfather Luo's room, Luo Qingtong returned to her room. She saw little pig curled up pitifully in a corner of her bed, while Yi Qianxian sat on her bed. Seeing her walk in, two pairs of eyes immediately looked over. Vaster. When little pig saw that Luo Qingtong had returned, he impatiently stomped his hooves and was about to pounce on her. It didn't want to stay with this man anymore. However, just as it raised its four hooves, a pair of eyes stared at it. In an instant, little pig, who was about to leap up, froze. Faster thief. Was there any justice in this world? Who exactly was this woman's pet? Where was this man's face as the underworld venerable? Was it really okay to act cute like this? Little pig was filled with grief and indignation as he watched Yi Qianxian walk past him to Luo Qingtong. He looked up at her and said, "Hug." Luo Qingtong looked at the tiny Yi Qianxian. Even if this man had a straight face, he was still so adorable that it made her want to explode. She bent down and picked him up, then habitually kissed him on the lips. Her clear eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. Traces of blood mist rippled in her eyes, like clouds and rosy clouds. It was indescribably beautiful. "Good boy," she said with a smile. "Oh my God. Little Pig was watching from the side. He immediately covered his eyes with his 2 hooves. No wonder this man didn't want me to tell her about the connection between the main body and the subsoul. This woman probably didn't know that she had already been taken advantage of, right? Chapter 4:11. Xianxia sat on the seat of honor in the main hall, his eyes slightly downcast and deep. Luo Qi, he felt the warm touch on his lips. During this period of time he often felt this warm and soft feeling on his lips. This feeling was both strange and familiar. Xianxia knew that woman was kissing his divided soul again. Whenever that woman faced him she would either run or escape. The only time she behaved was when he went to the Tianyu Empire to catch her, but she thought that he didn't know her identity. Now, facing his divided soul, she kissed and hugged him. Thinking of this, Xianxia snorted coldly. At this moment he finally believed that Luo Qingtong was right when she said that it would be better if he was weaker. She really wanted him to be weaker so that she could do whatever she wanted to him, didn't she? Thinking of this, Xianxia was in a good mood and his previous depression disappeared. Woman with evil intentions but no guts. Thinking of how Luo Qingtong attacked him every time when he was suppressed and unable to move, Xianxia's lips curled up. At this moment a voice came from outside. Master, the whereabouts of the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin have been found. Zhou Fei walked in. Speak. Xianxia sat up straight and looked at him with shining eyes. That divided soul and mind were imprisoned, and the connection between the 9 Phoenix Ring and the 10-sided Dragon Ring was also cut off. If Xianxia wanted to find Luo Qingtong he had to start with the Holy Pen. But the latter was now taken away by the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Therefore Xianxia had to find her. Because only by finding out who the Holy Pen spirit who attacked Luo Qingtong came from, could he find the whereabouts of that woman. That woman didn't hesitate to imprison his soul fragment, which meant that his soul fragment must have found her true identity, making it impossible for her to escape. Thinking of this, Xianxia was very happy. He would be able to find that woman soon. This knowledge put him in a good mood. In the land beyond the clouds, Zhou Fei said with a frown. Master, that place isn't peaceful at the moment. It is said that a treasure may have appeared there. Many top powerhouses of True Spill continent are rushing towards that place. Your body. Zhou Fei was worried. With master's status, if he were to appear there he would definitely attract suspicion and jealousy from all sides. The hidden danger in master's body hasn't disappeared, so he can't use his full strength. In addition, the injuries from using the blood essence searching technique last time had not completely healed. If they were to join forces and deliberately target him, Zhou Fei looked at Xianxia and said, Master, why don't we wait for the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin to come back and then use the Holy Pen to find the evil doctor? No need. Xianxia raised his hand to stop Zhou Fei from speaking. Knowing that he would soon find the whereabouts of that woman, he didn't want to wait a moment longer. What's more, who knew when the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin would come back? Since he had found the whereabouts of that woman he would personally go there. He had to find out the origin of that wisp of Holy Pen spirit. Thinking of this, Xianxia flicked his sleeves and stood up. Tell Beiqing and Feng Yu to prepare. I will go to the land beyond the clouds. Yes. Zhou Fei didn't dare to say anything more. Once Master made a decision he would never change it. But wasn't the evil doctor's influence on Master too great? If the evil doctor really didn't have Master in her heart, then what should he do? Chapter 4:12. At the same time in the Luo family of Dongli country. After old Master Luo woke up, Luo Qingtong's heart was finally at ease. Now that grandfather Luo was safe she could leave the Luo family and do her own thing. The things that she had taken from that expert at the peak of the martial royal realm were still in her useless ring. She wouldn't give up until she found out who the mastermind was. Luo Qingtong had a feeling that everything that happened to the Luo family and the original host had something to do with the treachery and snobbishness of the Tianyu royal family. But it was more likely to be because of the mastermind. Otherwise, the Tianyu royal family would have plenty of opportunities to attack the Luo family and the original host. The original host's mother had disappeared a long time ago. If the Tianyu royal family was so dissatisfied with the marriage that they wanted to kill the original host, They wouldn't have waited until the original host was so old. Obviously there was an outside force involved. This made the Tianyu royal family extremely dissatisfied with the original host. Thinking of what Luo Xinning said when she attacked the original host, "You offended someone you shouldn't offend," Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. She wanted to see how much of a threat the other party was. She wouldn't let go of anyone who harmed her. After informing grandfather Luo, Luo Qingtong left with Little Pig and Yi Qianxian. She didn't bring anyone from the Evil Valley with her. They were all left at the Luo family to guard against anyone who might attack them. Luo Qingtong felt that the Tianyu royal family couldn't even take care of themselves after the Fei family was destroyed. They wouldn't have time to make trouble for the Luo family. But there was always a chance. The Luo family and grandfather Luo were the most important and warm harbors for Luo Qingtong in both of her lives. Only in the Luo family, in front of old Master Luo, would Luo Qingtong restrain her bloodthirsty coldness and the wanton coldness in her bones and reveal the lively emotions of an ordinary girl. At this moment she wasn't evil eye Luo Qi but an ordinary girl Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong liked this feeling very much. In her previous life she had never lived such an ordinary life. He had never enjoyed such familial love between a grandfather and his grandson. She cherished all of this and would never allow anyone to destroy it. Whoever dares to touch the Luo family will die. Whoosh. Outside the Blackfield subsidy of Dongli country, beside the Yellow Spring Road, Luo Qingtong landed under the watchful eyes of the crowd, and raised his hand to keep the Earth-grade flying ship. Hiss. Seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, everyone who was waiting to cross the Yellow Springs path gasped. Earth-grade flying ship, Sumeru's spatial spirit artifact. These two things, no matter which one it was, were not something that an ordinary person could possess. Just where did this purple-clothed girl come from? Everyone looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. They didn't know which sacred dynasty family she came from to gain experience. Luo Qingtong swaggered into the Blackfield subsidy of Dongli State. She was wearing a purple robe and her face had already been changed by old monster Yin Qi's Cheong Qi 100 changes, so no one could recognize her. Old monster Yin Qi's Cheong Qi 100 changes was very magical. It could completely change a person's aura from the inside out, which was much more advanced than ordinary disguise techniques. Ordinary disguise techniques could at most change one's bones and appearance. If one encountered a powerful expert, they would easily be seen through. But Cheong Qi 100 changes didn't have such concerns. Even a martial emperor expert who could easily see through a person's aura with the union of heaven and man could forget about probing Luo Qingtong's real aura. If not for this, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have come to the Blackfield. After all, Yi Qianxian was still looking for her everywhere. Chapter 413. Hey, have you heard? That stupid lunatic from the bloody arena is going to fight again today. Oh my god. Last time he was carried back in a bloody mess. This time he's going to fight again. He's not afraid of losing his life in the bloody arena one day. That's right. He's both stupid and crazy. Who would go to the bloody arena like him? He begged people to beat him. That's not enough. He even asked others to use weapons. He promised that he wouldn't fight back. Tell me, how badly is his brain injured? Isn't he just looking for death? Yeah. I heard that he's a member of the evil doctors. The people in the bloody arena are all protecting him, but they can't stop him from seeking death. I heard that last time if the people in the bloody arena hadn't been watching him, he would have been hacked to death. It said that he was delirious when he was carried down. He even looked up and smiled at others saying thank you. He's just too stupid. A group of people walked past Luo Qingtong. Hearing their words, Luo Qingtong suddenly froze. Are they talking about Tu Lingfeng? What's that blockhead doing now? Letting others hit him with weapons and not fighting back? Is he looking for death? Luo Qingtong was slightly angry. She rushed in the direction of the bloody arena. She promised Chu Lingfeng to go to the bloody arena to gain experience so that he could grow and advance better. She didn't want him to court death. What happened when she wasn't there? Luo Qingtong's figure quickly rushed to the bloody arena. At the same time, in the bloody arena in the 9th arena, a man with a weapon ruthlessly attacked Chu Lingfeng, who was barehanded opposite him. The latter didn't fight back. Those knife lights hit his body, making banging sounds from time to time. Could be seen how ruthless and powerful the attacker was. Kill, kill, kill. The people in the stands screamed loudly, excited by the bloody scene in the arena. The atmosphere of the whole arena was raised to the peak. Amidst the screams of the crowd, a young man with inverted triangular eyes suddenly sneered in a corner of the stands. These are the subordinates of that evil doctor? He was really stupid enough to stand there and let others kill him. Since he wants to die so badly, we can't not fulfill his wish. It's also a good opportunity for our Qing clan to vent our anger. This young man was from the Qing clan. Previously, in order to kidnap Su Yu and torture her, not only were all the people sent by the Qing clan killed, even the Earth-level spirit ship of the eldest young master of the Qing clan was snatched away. Everyone in the Qing clan knew about it. He happened to be passing by this place for some business. Originally, he did not want to enter this Blackfield subsidy. However, when he heard about Chu Lingfeng and found out that the other party was the evil doctor's subordinate, the young man immediately had evil intentions. He bribed the person who was fighting against Chu Lingfeng and wanted to kill him. Who asked this Chu Lingfeng to have a screw loose in his head. He was perfectly fine when he went up on stage to be killed, and he even promised not to fight back. Since he wasn't going to fight back, he should just die. A sinister smile appeared on the young master's face. The Qing clan couldn't touch the evil doctor and Su Yu, but this Chu Lingfeng was just right to vent their anger. Who asked him to court death? In the arena, life and death were up to fate. Even if Chu Lingfeng died, the people of the Blackfield could not blame anyone else. Thinking of this, the young man smiled even more contentedly. Chapter 4:14. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed when she saw the blockhead who was covered in blood and not fighting back. This guy was really that stupid. Was he deliberately looking for death? She let him stay in the Blackfield to gain experience, and this was how he repaid her? Luo Qingtong instantly became angry. Get down from here. Her voice coldly penetrated the sharp shouts of the surrounding people and accurately passed into Chu Lingfeng's ears. The latter was concentrating on resisting the pain in his body. The speed of the opponent's slashing was getting faster and faster, and he was somewhat powerless. But absorb a little more. Absorb a little more. This way he could become even more powerful. Only then could he help master. Chu Lingfeng thought so, enduring the severe pain in his body. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Chu Lingfeng might not be able to recognize other people's voices. But Luo Qingtong was regarded as a god by him, and he remembered her voice very clearly. In an instant he was stunned. Master! His heart was wild with joy, and he subconsciously wanted to call out. But Luo Qingtong once again shouted. Shut up. Don't reveal my identity, get down from there immediately. Yes. Chu Lingfeng said happily. Master was back. Even if he was scolded, he would still be very happy. What's more, Chu Lingfeng was stupid, but his intuition was very sharp. Luo Qingtong scolded him because she cared about him, and his mood suddenly became very good. I'm not coming anymore, he said loudly. His originally motionless and unresisting body suddenly retreated. The martial artist who was fighting with him saw that the situation was not good, and this fool actually wanted to run. In the past, didn't he always get carried down only when he was about to die? This time he actually took the initiative to leave. Could it be that he realized that he had been bribed? If it was really like this, he would be dead if he stepped down. The people of the bloody arena would not let him go. Thinking of this, the weapon-wielding martial artist's heart skipped a beat. He looked at Chu Lingfeng with eyes filled with murderous intent. No matter what, he could not let this fool leave alive today. Thinking of this, the martial artist pretended to be unable to control his strength. After Chu Lingfeng opened his mouth and turned around, an attack suddenly struck towards the back of his head. Stupid lunatic. Careful. He shouted pretentiously, but his actions were extremely ruthless. However, at this moment, an invisible force suddenly rushed before the warrior could swing his saber and blocked his saber light. It was as if the saber light had collided with the energy. In an instant, the saber light was stopped. In the next second, with a bang, Chu Lingfeng, who felt the attack from behind, suddenly turned his head and grabbed that person's neck. How dare you kill me? And in front of the master. Don't you know that your life belongs to the master? Chu Lingfeng's face was ferocious. He had always been regarded as a simple and honest fool, but now he was like a demon from hell and snapped his opponent's neck. Qing. That martial artist was just about to call for help from the Qing family's young master, but just as he shouted a word, his head was twisted off. Let's go. Seeing that the martial artist failed to kill and was killed instead, the Qing family's young master stood up and walked out with a cold snort. An idiot. He couldn't even deal with a seriously injured fool. That Chu Lingfeng took advantage of him for nothing. Chapter 4:15. Qing. Luo Qingtong stood in front of that Qing family's young master as her gaze swept across this group of people and instantly guessed their identity. These people were still wearing the Qing family's emblem on their bodies. If that practitioner hadn't asked them for help, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have known that there was someone instigating them. But since she knew, she narrowed her eyes and walked straight towards that group of people. Swish. She brushed past that young master. A whiff of fragrance was faintly discernible. That Qing family's young master was in an extremely bad mood, and the moment he brushed past Luo Qingtong, he was about to fly into a rage. Just at this moment he smelled that whiff of fragrance, and before he could react, his mind instantly became dizzy. Plop. That Qing family's young master collapsed. Young master. Seeing that Qing family's young master collapse, the bodyguards beside him instantly became flustered and hurried over to support him. However, plop plop. A series of muffled sounds rang out and their figures collapsed onto the ground one by one. In a short while the group of people collapsed onto the ground as their bodies twitched, and not long after they stopped breathing. Someone's dead. Someone come quickly. When the spectators by the side saw this, they hurriedly cried out. Luo Qingtong had already walked to the front of the stage and turned a deaf ear to those shouts behind her. These Qing family members deserved to die. How dare they touch her people? On the stage, after killing that practitioner who was holding a weapon, Chu Lingfeng jumped down from the stage and didn't care about the injuries on his body as he stretched his neck to look around. Strange, where's master? Chu Lingfeng looked around and his heart was filled with unspeakable puzzlement. He had clearly heard master's voice, but why couldn't he find him? If not for Luo Qingtong's earlier warning that her identity couldn't be revealed, this big fool would have already shouted out loud. Luo Qingtong looked at his silly look and was speechless. Fortunately, although Chu Lingfeng was silly, he was absolutely obedient to Luo Qingtong's words. At this moment, no matter how much he longed to find Luo Qingtong, he didn't dare to shout out loud and could only anxiously walk around in circles and keep stamping his feet. That fiendish face of a peerless killing god was now simple and honest and impatient, like a big wolfhound that couldn't find its master. Seeing him so anxious that he was sweating profusely, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched and she transmitted a message to him. Don't let anyone see that you're looking for me. I'll be waiting for you in the private room of the restaurant opposite. You'll find a way to come over and don't let anyone find you. Yes, master, I understand. When Chu Lingfeng received Luo Qingtong's message, he was so happy that the depressed expression on his face disappeared. Of the Qingtong's. Fortunately, Chu Lingfeng was able to complete the things that she had arranged for him. He wasn't a pure fool. Otherwise, she really wouldn't dare to look for him. She would be exposed at any moment. After leaving the bloody fighting arena, Luo Qingtong went to the restaurant opposite and booked a private room. Outside the private room, she left a mark that only Chu Lingfeng could see. After waiting for about half an hour, Chu Lingfeng appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. Master. Looking at the completely unfamiliar girl in front of him, Chu Lingfeng's eyes widened in an instant. He looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. Luo Qingtong left the door open for Chu Lingfeng. The latter walked in directly. Master, it's really you. When Chu Lingfeng walked in, he thought that he had recognized the wrong person. If it weren't for the mark that Luo Qingtong left outside, Chu Lingfeng would have backed out. Chapter 4:16. Master, you're so powerful. Chu Lingfeng stared at Luo Qingtong's completely unfamiliar face, feeling an indescribable novelty. Is this a mask? Oh. Luo Qingtong looked at his curious face and suddenly smiled. Using Qiongqi's 100 changes, the muscles and bones on her face instantly moved and returned to their original appearance. Even his aura had changed. It's just a small trick. Luo Qingtong looked at him and said, "But you, what happened to you in the bloody arena? Didn't you say you were going there to gain experience and increase your strength? I left you in the Black Field Subsidy and you went there to die?" Chu Lingfeng had a guilty conscience after hearing Luo Qingtong's words. He shrunk his neck and retorted in a low voice, "Master, don't be angry, I know what I'm doing, it's okay." Such a tall and strong person under Luo Qingtong's stare, he wished he could shrink into a ball. It really looked indescribably funny and infuriating. Luo Qingtong was not moved by his words. "Why don't you tell me what you're doing? If I didn't arrive today, maybe you would have died there. You let people chop you with swords and you didn't even fight back. Do you really think you're immortal? I saved your life so you can trample on it like this? If so, you'd better die as soon as possible, so that I won't be annoyed looking at you." Luo Qingtong's face was cold and her words were extremely ruthless. Chu Lingfeng was such a big fool. While doing things wholeheartedly, it was easy for him to have a one-track mind. If she didn't say something ruthless to him, she was afraid that after she left, he would be like this again. This time he was lucky to be fine, but what about next time? Luo Qingtong felt that it was necessary to dispel Chu Lingfeng's foolish thoughts. "Master." Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Chu Lingfeng instantly panicked. "Master, don't abandon me. I didn't do it on purpose. Master, I was wrong, please don't abandon me." As he spoke, he began to speak intermittently. It turned out that as Chu Lingfeng's strength grew, the fights in the bloody arena could no longer satisfy him. As his strength increased, it became very difficult for him to absorb the energy of those who came to fight him. Later on, he realized that when those people attacked him with weapons, he was able to absorb a bit of energy. That was why he did this. "Master, I was wrong. I just want to become stronger so that I can protect you. Master, I didn't know you would be unhappy." Chu Lingfeng hugged Luo Qingtong's thigh and cried, "Master, don't abandon me. Get up first." Luo Qingtong looked at him with a headache. She didn't expect Chu Lingfeng to do this because of this. Did he want to become stronger and protect her? She looked at the wounds on Chu Lingfeng's body that had not completely healed, and her heart was slightly moved. "Okay, I'm not angry anymore. Get up quickly." In any case, Chu Lingfeng's starting point was for her own good. Even if he was a little silly, Luo Qingtong would not blame him. The anger in her heart disappeared. Luo Qingtong pulled him up. "Even if you want to enhance your strength, you can't let others hit you like this without fighting back. In the arena, life and death are determined by the heavens and swords have no eyes. Let me ask you, if you were really killed in the arena, even if you have strong strength, what will you use to protect me?" Luo Qingtong looked at him and said with a stern look. Chapter 417. Ah. Chu Lingfeng looks at her with a dumbfounded expression. I didn't think so much." His face was filled with helplessness. Chu Lingfeng really didn't think so much, he just wanted to desperately increase his strength. Therefore, when those people punched and kicked him, he could absorb less power, so he wanted to let them use weapons to cut him. He didn't consider what would happen if he accidentally died on the stage. In his opinion, Master was so good to him and also saved him and his mother. For Master, even if he died on the stage, it didn't matter. So he fought desperately to the extreme. But he didn't think that if he died on the stage, how could he repay and protect Master in the future? Thinking of this, Chu Lingfeng hangs his head with a depressed face. "Master, I'm sorry. It's good that you know you're wrong." Luo Qingtong looks at him and throws a bottle of liquid medicine over. "Drink this medicine." "What about the medicine on your body?" Luo Qingtong remembers that before she left a lot of medicine for Chu Lingfeng and the others, enough for them to use for half a year. "What about the medicine?" "It's all used up." Chu Lingfeng whispers. Every time he went on the stage, he was almost always carried down. If it weren't for the good quality of Luo Qingtong's medicine, who knows how many times he would have died. Naturally, the medicine was used up very quickly. Luo Qingtong looks at him, the corners of her mouth twitching, and gives him a large amount of medicine again. "Take these. If it's not enough, let me know." Luo Qingtong taps the table with her index finger, and takes out the purple recommendation card from her waist ring. "This recommendation card is for you. From tomorrow onwards, don't go to the bloody arena. Go to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. There are many experts there, you can find someone to compare notes with. On the stage they won't casually decide people's life and death. It's very suitable for you to increase your strength. The more this blockhead is beaten, the stronger he becomes. Luo Qingtong thought that the bloody arena was very suitable for him. Now it seemed that he had misunderstood. In the end, the bloody arena was a place for life and death battles. Even if the people in the bloody arena wanted to watch, it was very easy for something to happen in the arena. What's more, Chu Lingfeng needed to be beaten up in order to increase his strength. This made it even easier for others to plot against him. Didn't he run into it when he came back this time? If it wasn't for this blockhead's special physique, who knows how many times he would have died. In comparison, the Sacred Institute of the Empire of Qin was different. As a student, Chu Lingfeng could find anyone to spar with and no one would casually kill him. Luo Qingtong felt that it was very suitable for him. Luo Qingtong didn't intend to use this purple recommendation card. This time she came to the black field to ask Chu Lingfeng to help her auction it. After all, that old man was for evil Dr. Ghost Eye. If she went to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin with this recommendation letter, wouldn't her identity be exposed? What's more, thinking of Yuan Ma in the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She would enter the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin as Luo Qingtong. At that time she would ruthlessly slap Yuan Ma's face. This purple recommendation post, whoever wants it can have it. Mistress, this is for me? Chu Lingfeng was a bit dumbfounded. He was a bit stupid, but he still knew what kind of existence the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin was. The four great holy dynasties, the four great holy academies. Their status was incomparably high. The holy dynasty's highest educational institution. The disciples of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin were a cut above ordinary martial artists. Who didn't know that the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin's requirements for admission were extremely harsh? If one wasn't a genius among geniuses, it was impossible to enter the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Chapter 418. Chu Lingfeng foolishly looked at Luo Qingtong, not knowing how to react. Mistress, he looked at the purple recommendation card and was speechless for a long time. Purple was extremely precious. In the true Spill continent, purple represented grace, luxury, and mystery. Generally, a purple recommendation card indicated that the other party valued it. Not to mention, this purple recommendation card was even better. Chu Lingfeng was stupid, but he knew how precious this recommendation card was. And Luo Qingtong had delivered it to him. In an instant, Chu Lingfeng wanted to cry. Besides his mother, Mistress was the person who treated him the best in the world. Mistress, you can rest assured. I will definitely fight well and live up to Mistress's expectations. Chu Lingfeng choked with sobs. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. Go to the Empire of Qin's Holy Institute and fight well? If one didn't know better, they would think that she was deliberately sending someone to cause trouble. But Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Good, fight well there. Alright, there's someone called Yuan Ma. If you have nothing to do, go and find him to spar with. Luo Qingtong said with a smile on her lips. She would first find something for Yuan Ma to do. When she entered the Empire of Qin's Holy Institute, she would find him to settle accounts. Remember, you are not allowed to not fight back when you are hit or scolded. You are my subordinate. If you are hit, it is the same as hitting my face. If you do this again, you don't need to come back to see me. Do you understand? I understand. Chu Lingfeng was completely enlightened. Hitting him was the same as hitting Mistress's face. That was unacceptable. Mistress, you can rest assured. I will not lose your face. Chu Lingfeng secretly swore in his heart. When he went to the Empire of Qin's Holy Institute, he would definitely fight for Mistress. That's right, Mistress had just mentioned that Yuan Ma. He would definitely teach him a lesson. Luo Qingtong nodded with satisfaction. This was the best thing about Chu Lingfeng. Regardless of whether she was right or wrong, he would always listen to her. Being stupid had its benefits. By the way, I haven't been in the mansion recently. Did anything happen? Yes. Chu Lingfeng nodded and said to Luo Qingtong. After Mistress left, people from the Lanyue aristocratic family came to visit and sent a purple invitation card, inviting Mistress to visit the Lanyue aristocratic family. As he spoke, he took out the purple name card from his body. Before coming here, Chu Lingfeng had specially made a trip back to the mansion and brought out the purple name card. Luo Qingtong took the purple name card. At first glance she knew what was going on. So that little fellow is a member of the Lanyue aristocratic family? As soon as the name card mentioned him, Luo Qingtong thought of the cute little boy she had saved in the Nine Magi Mountains. It seemed that he had been found by the Lanyue aristocratic family at that time and brought back safely. Okay, I see. Is there anything else? Luo Qingtong put away the name card. Yes. Chu Lingfeng nodded honestly. Many people want mistress to refine medicine. The Bloody Arena gave me a list of the medicines they wanted to refine and the things they sent. Mistress, take a look. As he spoke, he took out the list. Although Chu Lingfeng was stupid, he still remembered Luo Qingtong's matters clearly. He had brought all of them with him on this trip. He probably knew that Luo Qingtong didn't want to reveal her identity, so he naturally wouldn't return to the mansion. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded and took it. Chapter 419. The Imperial Family of Tianyu? Luo Qingtong's expression turned playful. She looked at the list of benefits. In order to get her to refine medicine, the Imperial Family of Tianyu had offered an extraordinary price. Not only that, the Emperor of Tianyu had also humbled himself in the letter, saying that he had already punished the 7th princess and the Empress. What happened to the Fei clan had nothing to do with the Imperial family. All of this was to get Luo Qingtong to help the martial emperors of Tianyu recover their strength. Heh. Luo Qingtong chuckled. If the Emperor of Tianyu knew that the person he was begging was the young miss of the Luo clan, whom he had always looked down on, who knew what kind of expression he would have. Apart from the Imperial family of Tianyu, I'll agree to everyone else's request. Luo Qingtong glanced at the list and threw it to Chu Lingfeng. Also, tell the people of the Bloody Arena that I won't accept any orders from the Imperial family of Tianyu no matter how high the price is. Tell them not to offer me anything. Luo Qingtong had purposely refused to accept any orders from the Imperial family of Tianyu. Furthermore, he had accepted everyone's call but not theirs. This was a clear sign of displeasure and dissatisfaction. Luo Qingtong believed that with the Emperor of Tianyu's temperament, he would definitely vent his anger on the Empress and Wuxia. These two had bullied the original owner and the Luo clan so badly. She wanted them to have a taste of what it was like to be bullied. Yes, master. Chu Lingfeng agreed and put away the list. With his temperament, he didn't know why Luo Qingtong had accepted everyone's orders but not the Imperial family of Tianyu. In any case, she could accept anyone she wanted. No one could stop her. Master, I'll take my leave first. Chu Lingfeng said to Luo Qingtong. There's no hurry. Luo Qingtong took out the things she had put in the trash ring, the things on the peak martial emperor. Take these things to the people of the Blackfield. Tell them that I need his identity urgently. It'll be even better if they can find out the faction behind him and his master. Compared to the Imperial family of Tianyu, the person who had plotted against the original owner was more like a fishbone stuck in her throat. Luo Qingtong had to find out who that person was. Okay. Chu Lingfeng put the things away. Remember to tell the Blackfield's people to investigate in secret. That person was against the Luo clan. Luo Qingtong didn't want others to know her relationship with the Luo clan. At least for now. She was still not strong enough. Yes. Chu Lingfeng nodded heavily. Master, I understand. I will go and tell those people in the dark domain later. Also, these pills, give them to them as well. Tell them that once they find out who it is, they'll benefit from it. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she took out 5 bottles of elixirs from her trash ring. Give these 2 bottles to them and let them auction them. As for the remaining 3 bottles, keep these 2 for yourself. The last bottle is for your mother. She'll wake up after taking it. Luo Qingtong gave Chu Lingfeng the spirit strengthening pill and the spirit understanding pill. These 2 types of pills, when taken together, were extremely beneficial to the improvement of one's strength. However, taking too many of them would affect one's foundation. Luo Qingtong didn't want Chu Lingfeng to be like Luo Xingning, who only had cultivation but not much strength. Therefore, she didn't give him too many pills. These 2 bottles of pills were for him to strengthen his strength. As for the last bottle of pills, it was naturally the Yin Soul pill. Luo Qingtong made these pills especially for Chu Lingfeng's mother. Chapter 420. Master, you are so good to me. Chu Lingfeng's eyes turned red as he held the bottles of medicinal pills. Luo Qingtong quickly stopped him when she saw that he was about to cry again. Alright, don't cry. Go and see your mother. By the way, you must do what I asked you to do as soon as possible. I will wait for you outside the Blackfield subsidy for the next few days. Come back to me as soon as you have any news. Yes, master. Don't worry. I will do it well. Chu Lingfeng said as he walked out of the door. Luo Qingtong also left the private room a while after he left. However, she paid for this private room. When Chu Lingfeng found out the news, he would come to this private room to look for her. That way, the blockhead wouldn't be able to find her. No matter how careful he was, he would inevitably be exposed. Luo Qingtong didn't want to expose her identity to the blockhead. After leaving the Blackfield subsidy, Luo Qingtong released little Ming Zun and little Pig from her sleeves. Alright, don't be angry. I was afraid that you would cause some trouble in the Blackfield subsidy, so I locked you in my sleeves. Seeing little Ming Zun's sour face, Luo Qingtong leaned over and kissed his face. Don't be unhappy. You don't want others to see you like this, right? Luo Qingtong looked at him with a smile. Xianxia snorted coldly. He didn't want to talk to her. However, Luo Qingtong wasn't the kind of person who would ignore others just because they didn't talk to her. She looked at Xianxia's awkward appearance and immediately went up to him with a smile. Here, I bought you a gift. Do you like it? Luo Qingtong handed the Tonghulu skewers that she bought in the Blackfield subsidy to Xianxia. She specially asked someone to make a small skewer for her. However, it was still too big in front of Xianxia. That hawthorn was almost as big as little Ming Zun's head. When it was placed in front of Xianxia, it looked especially cute. Xianxia looked at the hawthorn skewers. Before he could say anything, little Pig beside him had already shouted. Master, I wanted to. Little Pig looked at the Tonghulu skewers with sparkling eyes. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. I've been with this woman for so long, but she never bought me anything. Whenever this man came, she would buy this and that for him. Was it because his face was cuter than hers? This is a world. Just when little Pig was making a fuss about wanting to eat, Yi Qianren snatched the hawthorn with a cold face. That pair of cold and gloomy eyes stared coldly at little Pig. This is the sovereign's. He never shared his things with outsiders. Not to mention this woman gave it to him. Holy shit. Little Pig looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. Does this man need to do this? Isn't it just a Tonghulu skewers? Does he need to look at me with such a gaze as if he wants to chop me into pieces? Little Pig was speechless. Master. He looked at Luo Qingtong with tears in his eyes, trying to gain some sympathy. However, Luo Qingtong was watching Xianxia eat the Tonghulu skewers with her hand supporting her forehead. She didn't even notice little Pig. The way little Ming Zun ate the Tonghulu skewers was too cute. Luo Qingtong watched as he hugged the round candied hawthorn and gnawed on it. His cheeks were puffed up, and her heart almost melted from his cuteness. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.